Thanks for tuning in today to see things they usually don't teach you. This is the second in the series this year. This program is being brought to you during a time of COVID-19 and distance while the high school is shut down. So, while I will be narrating the program, you will be spared from watching me during the next 30 minutes. So hold on and let's go. Captain James T. Kirk's future birthplace is Riverside, Iowa. Steve Miller, a Riverside councilman, knew this before anyone else. Steve was a Trekkie, and he read Gene Roddenberry's book, Making of Star Trek 1968, that Kirk would be born in a small town in Iowa. The book didn't name the town, Miller thought. Why not Riverside? At the next council meeting, March 25, 1985, Miller proposed that Riverside declare itself the future birthplace of James T. Kirk. The motion passed unanimously. World's largest killer bee, Hidalgo, Texas. The first Africanized killer bees in the U.S. were spotted in Hidalgo, Texas, and the city decided to embrace their arrival with a 2,000-pound statue. And if that doesn't chill you to the bone, consider the price tag. The statue cost the city $20,000. The Fork in the Road, Pasadena, California. What started out as a joke by local resident Bob Stain and Ken Marshall has turned into an important Pasadena, California landmark. This actual fork in the road is often the site of food drives and other charitable events happening in that area. Bamahenge, Josephine, Alabama. Hidden in the woods in Josephine, Alabama is a full-scale reproduction of Stonehenge. Built by artist Mark Klein at the behest of George Barber of Barber Motorsports in 2013, this replica is even aligned with the solstice just like the original. Insane things women could be arrested for. Michigan state law prohibits unapproved haircuts. In Michigan, for example, there's still a statute that allows a man to exert a huge amount of control over his wife. The law prohibits a woman from getting a haircut without their husband's expressed approval. In Carmel, California, a woman needs a permit to wear high heels. Any woman wearing high heels in Carmel needs a permit to do so because she is putting herself and the city's urban forest character in jeopardy. It's hard to imagine that these laws are strictly enforced to this day, but laws in Florida, Michigan, and Mississippi have prohibited unmarried men and women from living together. It is considered a lascivious act. Tucson doesn't allow women to wear pants. The late, great Mary Tyler Moore famously fought a battle with CBS to wear capris on TV as late as 1961. During the run of the Dick Van Dyke Show. It was considered extremely controversial for a woman to want to traipse around the public in relatively warmth and comfort. That silly aversion to women in pants is still reflected on the books in Tucson, Arizona. In that city, women are still not legally allowed to wear pants in public. Sutimatsu Yamakawa moved to America at the age of 11. She lived in Connecticut with Dr. Leonard Bacon, who was an anti-slavery activist and minister. She enrolled in Vassar College in 1878. She became the president of her class during her sophomore year, graduated magna cum laude, and was ranked third in her class. She was the first Japanese woman ever to earn a college degree. Stop signs used to be yellow. In 1922, the American Association of State Highway Officials met to determine a standard design for stop signs, and that's where they decided on the color yellow. What? Yes, according to Business Insider, stop signs were yellow because they thought they would grab drivers' attention. They also considered red, but there was no dye available at the time that wouldn't eventually fade. By 1954, however, sign makers had access to fade-resistant porcelain enamel and could finally start making stop signs the color we recognize today. New York City was briefly named New Orange. Yes, before it was the Big Apple, it was New Orange. As history reports, when the Dutch captured New York City from the English in 1673, they renamed it New Orange in honor of William III of Orange. The following year, however, the English regained control and ditched the orange. Green Eggs and Ham started as a bet. Dr. Seuss' classic grew out of a bet with his editor that he could not create a book using fewer than 50 different words. The editor, Random House founder Bennett Cerf, put it, you guessed it, 50 on the line and lost. Queen Elizabeth II is a trained mechanic. Yes, the Queen is actually quite handy. When she was 16, she joined the British employment agency, the Labour Exchange, where she learned the basics of truck repair, including how to change a tire and repair engines. In March 1945, a truck mechanic in the Women's Auxiliary Territory Service, based in the Mechanics of Transportation Training Section at Camberley, Surrey, received a visit from her parents and her sister. Her parents just happened to be King George VI and the Queen and her sister, Princess Margaret. Tree rings get wider during wet years. You probably already know that tree rings can tell how old the tree is, but they can also show you the conditions of the given year according to the National Aeronautic and Space Administration. Thinner rings appeared during drought years, and thick ones mean there was significant rainfall. Dolo, Ethiopia, has the highest average temperature of any inhabited place on Earth. Climate data recorded between 1960 and 1966 had the average high at 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Even in the winter, the average highs were between 97 and 98 degrees. Shel Silverstein wrote the song A Boy Named Sue. The well-known Johnny Cash song was actually penned by the famous children's book author and poet behind the works such as Where the Sidewalk Ends, The Giving Tree, and The Light in the Attic. He also wrote songs performed by Emmylou Harris, Waylon Jennings, Loretta Lynn, and more. Sea otters hold hands while they sleep. This ridiculously cute behavior is an effort to avoid floating away from their partner during sleep. Sometimes, in larger groups, they hold hands, producing a raft. Toto the dog was once a cow. In the original 1902 stage version of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Dorothy did not have a dog, but a faithful cow named Imogen. Reno, Nevada is further west than Los Angeles, as can be seen on this map. Giant squids have the largest eyes of any animal on Earth. If you're not significantly scared of giant squids, consider that their eyes are 11 inches across. That makes them the largest known eyes in the animal kingdom. One of the squid's two eyes, with a lens as big as an orange, was found intact as the scientists examined the creature while it was slowly defrosting at New Zealand's National Museum. The blob of toothpaste that sits on your toothbrush has a name. It's called a nurdle. And there was a lawsuit over which toothpaste company had the right to depict it. The case of GlaxoSmithKline versus Colgate-Palmolive Company in U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York, number 1005739. These are the two of the largest toothpaste makers in the world, and they reached a confidential settlement over the litigation of who had the right to depict the nurdle, a waved-shaped toothpaste blob that sits on your toothbrush head. Pteronophobia is the fear of being tickled by feathers. It's also the fear of feathers themselves. The word ptero is Greek word for feather, and phobia is also Greek meaning fear. Cherophobia is an irrational fear of fun or happiness. That's one phobia I wouldn't like to have. It would probably mean they would fear these fun facts. The inventor of the Frisbee was cremated and made into Frisbees after he died. Walter Frederick Morrison invented the Frisbee in 1948, which was originally called the Pluto platter. Mr. Morrison passed away in 2010 with implicit instructions that his ashes were to be molded into Frisbees. It wasn't just one, though. A series of Frisbees were made from his ashes and distributed among family members. Tennis players are not allowed to swear when they are playing in Wimbledon. Because of this, line judges have to learn curse words in every language so they know when a player has violated the rules. The picture you see there is Allison Risk. She played tennis for Peters Township. She is internationally ranked. Her highest ranking was number 18 last year. In 2017, more people were killed from injuries caused by taking selfies than by shark attacks. There were only 5 deaths due to shark attacks in 2017, which is lower than the average year. The average amount of deaths caused by sharks is 6. Worldwide, there were 35 deaths caused by taking selfies in 2017. The following can be read forward and backwards. Do geese see God? The sentence is what is called a palindrome. The word itself is Greek. Palin means back, and dromos means direction. Other examples are Anna, civic, kayak, level, madam, mom, noon, and race car. Palindromes exist in names too. A past minister of Cambodia was named Lon Nol. A baby octopus is about the size of a grown flea when it's born. You would think this would make them hard to spot. However, since eggs are laid by the tens of thousands, it would be hard to miss a massive cluster of pea-sized octopi. Approximately 45 to 50% of U.S. power outages are caused by squirrels. Harmless and cute as they seem, these fuzzy little creatures aren't as innocent as you think. Squirrels have a tendency of chewing the wires, but luckily, it's a simple fix. Bob Dylan's real name is Robert Zimmerman. Yep, his full name is Robert Allen Zimmerman. He started going by Bob Dylan early on in his career for no real reason, simply because he wanted to. The driest place on Earth is in Antarctica and hasn't experienced rain in 2 million years. Surprisingly, the driest spot on Earth is located in a roughly 1,850 square mile area in Antarctica, appropriately named Dry Valleys. Thanks to heavy winds that take moisture elsewhere, and a lack of rain for 2 million years means there is a zero net gain of water in the area. The world's longest mountain chain is 40,389 miles long and is located underwater. Called the Mid-Ocean Ridge, this underwater range was formed by magma rising to fill gaps that formed as Earth's plates shift. In the past 2,740 years, 6 hours has been eliminated from the Earth's gradually slowing rotation. Scientists have discovered Earth's rotation is slowing, but the difference is so slight it's nearly impossible to tell. They blame tides interacting with continent shores and creating friction as the largest factor in why the Earth's rotation is changing, and they believe the rotation has been shortening about 6 hours in the past 2,740 years. That's 1.78 milliseconds per day each century. The top 100 artists, according to the RIAA's certified gold and platinum sales, according to Digital Music News, is the Beatles, with 178 million certified units sold. Garth Brooks, Elvis Presley, the Eagles are the ones that follow. If you'll notice at the bottom of the list, Taylor Swift comes in at 35, with 43 million certified units. The Third Reich made the Amber Room disappear. King Frederick I of Prussia took it a step further by having an entire room constructed from his favorite gemstone, amber. The bedazzled Amber Room came about in 1701. Then 15 years later, King Frederick William I gifted the room to Peter the Great as a symbol of their newly cemented alliance. The Third Reich looted countless treasures during World War II, including the Amber Room, which they sent to a castle museum in Königsberg, Germany. The current value of the gold, 170,315 ounces in the Amber Room, is approximately $340 million. This is not accounting for the jewels that made up most of the surface of the room. America's lost state, and many U.S. citizens won't have heard of it. In May of 1785, representatives from the disputed region therefore filed an official request to become the 14th member of the new American Republic. However, this plea for federal affiliation was not submitted under the name Franklin. Instead, it was issued under the short-lived title of Frank Land, or Land of the Free, as the term was then known to mean. Why are most Muppets left-handed? Ever notice how the Muppets are mostly left-handed? That's because most of the Muppeteers are right-handed. Muppeteering is a full-body activity, but the dominant, usually right hand, is positioned inside the Muppet's head. With a simple hand-rod Muppet, like Grover or Kermit the Frog, the left hand operates the Muppet's hands. Which president kept a huge block of cheese in the White House? In 1836, President Andrew Jackson received a 1,400-pound block of cheese as a gift from the dairy farmers in New York. After the cheese behemoth toured from New York to Philadelphia to Baltimore, it made its way to the White House, where Jackson displayed it for a year. Before he left office, he allowed the doors of the White House to be opened for anyone to come in and take some cheese. A first-hand account recalls men, women, and children hacking away at it until the carpet was slippery with cheese. Only a small piece was saved for the president. Facts about McDonald's. Where was the first McDonald's? Siblings Richard and Maurice McDonald opened the first McDonald's in San Bernardino, California on May 15, 1940. I used to go there while I was stationed at Norton Air Force Base in San Bernardino. Every Sunday we'd go riding, and then after that we'd have lunch at this McDonald's. It was fun being 19 years old, thinking that you were in the first place the McDonald's was ever served. The most bought item at McDonald's? French fries. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun slogan started in 1969 for the new Big Mac. Why did Mickey D's add a fish sandwich to the menu? It was created in 1962 in response to the falling hamburger sales resulting from the Roman Catholic practice of abstaining from meat on Fridays. Peanuts was the first major comic strip to feature a minority character. Schultz was intentional about a lot of things when it came to how he framed his famous comic strip, but most especially when it came to race. The majority of the Peanuts gang had always been white, but things changed in 1968 following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Schultz received a letter from a woman asking him to add an African American character to the comic, and 3 months later, in July 1968, Franklin made his comic strip debut, picking up and returning a beach ball that Charlie Brown had lost. Peanuts comic strips are no longer drawn. Unlike many other comic strips, such as Gasoline Alley, Blondie, Beetle Bailey, which have brought on new artists to write or draw the cartoons after the original creator's death or retirement, Peanuts ended with Schultz's death in 2000. In December of the previous year, Schultz had announced that he would be ending Peanuts' nearly 50-year run. His final daily strip ran in January 2000, and the final Sunday comic ran on February 13, 2000. Schultz used that strip as a farewell letter. Unfortunately, I am no longer able to maintain the schedule demanded by a daily comic strip. My family does not wish Peanuts to be continued by anyone else, therefore I am announcing my retirement. Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Linus, Lucy. How can I ever forget them? A 140-year-old mother with her 5-day-old son. Is this turtle the oldest mom ever? Maybe. This picture was snapped back in 2011 at the Animal Park in Hungary. This mama African spurred tortoise had recently hatched 8 little baby tortoises, and the photographer was capturing the happy event. He placed one of the babies on the mother's head for a photo shoot. Actually, tortoises enjoy one of the longest lifespans of any animal on Earth. It is not uncommon for them to live to be 150 years old or more. In several cultures, including the Chinese and Indian cultures, the tortoise symbolizes longevity. Just think, when this mama tortoise was born, Ulysses S. Grant was President of the United States. A rare white stag steps out of fantasy into reality. These gorgeous stags are actually red deer or fallow deer who are suffering from a condition known as luteum that causes their hair and skin to lose its natural color. While these animals are mostly thought to be mythological creatures who appear in everything from Hungarian mythology to Harry Potter, they can actually be seen all over the world. You just have to keep your eyes peeled. Only male Lady Amherst pheasants are this stunning. This ornate pheasant, with an equally overwrought name, is bird of the order Gilforms. While it's found in southwestern China and northern Burma, the bird was named after Sarah Countess Amherst, wife of Sir William Pitt Amherst, the governor of Bengal. He was responsible for sending the first of these gorgeous birds to London in 1828. Microwave door grating. When you look closely into the microwave, you see thousands of tiny black holes covering the door. This grating is called a Faraday shield, and it ensures that hazardous electromagnetic waves don't escape and harm people waiting to open the door. Soda can tabs. Obviously, these little metal tabs are used to pop open the can. But have you ever thought about flipping it around and placing a straw through the hole? Probably not, but you'll quickly realize it's a genius idea. Removable headrest. As a kid, you probably remember yanking the 2 front headrests out of the holders while sitting in the back seat. They come loose, so in the event of emergency, you can use the metal ends to break through the windows. Holes in pen caps. Those open ends you see on most capped pens aren't a production error. They're actually a safety feature. How? In the event someone chokes on one, the open end allows air to flow to prevent asphyxiation. Applesauce lids. Ever pack a store-bought applesauce for lunch and forget utensils? Like most, you probably poured it into your mouth. Next time, do a little twisting and shaping with the foil lid. It can easily become a spoon. The number on the side of a glass ketchup bottle. You might as well call the raised number on the Heinz 57 ketchup bottle the sweet spot. That's where you should tap if you want to get the condiment flowing. Don't smack the bottom of the bottle. The tiny holes next to the iPhone camera on the back of your phone. They're on every phone next to the camera, but do they even serve a purpose? Of course. They're actually tiny microphones to capture sounds when you're recording. Fingernail files. Stop throwing away nail files when they lose their ruggedness. If you look closely, you'll notice you can actually peel off a layer you've already used to reveal a fresh one, only on wooden back files. Soft drink lids. Afraid of leaving a soda ring on your freshly cleaned coffee table? Pop the lid off your soda cup and use it as a coaster. The bottom of the cup should fit perfectly into the grooved ring on the lid. What was Play-Doh's original purpose? Back when home furnaces primarily burned coal, having dirty soot residue build up in the wallpaper was a big problem. In the 1930s, brothers Cleo and Noah McVicker created a non-toxic compound from water, salt, and flour that was then sold in grocery stores as a ready-made wallpaper cleaner. What did Coca-Cola's inventor hope to combat with his creation? Coca-Cola was invented by John Pemberton, a Civil War officer who became dependent on morphine after being injured in the war. In an attempt to find a substitute for his addiction, he created a drink made of coca leaves and cola nuts. When Listerine was first invented, it was designed for use in which situation? Listerine was initially created in 1879 as an antiseptic to be used medically for surgeries and cleaning wounds. It was named for John Lister, an English doctor who had been the first surgeon to operate in an antiseptically sterilized chamber 14 years earlier. It wasn't until 1895 that scientists began to see that the product effectively killed germs in the mouth, and in 1914 it was finally marketed and sold over the counter as an oral germ killer. The rest is fresh breath history. Corkscrews are an adaptation of which older tool? A gun worm was a device used to dislodge bullets from gun barrels using a twisting claw-like end. Prior to the 18th century, wine was often stored in barrels or upright containers that didn't require a particularly tight seal. As the wine industry changed, however, wines were aged for longer and stored in horizontal bottles. Tighter fitting corks became the norm, and a new tool was required to remove them. Fortunately, the existing gun worm provided an inspiration for the tool we know as the corkscrew, allowing us to continue enjoying our favorite reds, whites, and rosés. Which toy was initially designed to be stabilizing devices for ship equipment? In 1943, a mechanical engineer named Richard James was trying to invent springs that would keep sensitive equipment steady on a ship during rough seas. When he accidentally knocked one off the shelf, he saw that it seemed to walk instead of simply falling. Inspired, he and his wife turned the device into one of the most classical toys of the 20th century, the birth of the Slinky. Bubble wrap was invented to be a new kind of what? Fancy a room covered in bubble wrap. When bubble wrap was invented in 1957, it was intended to be a new type of wallpaper. Eventually, it was discovered that the product's properties made it useful for packing and insulation instead. It's a pity it never caught on in interior design, though a bubble-wrapped covered room sounds like a ultimate in stress-relieving decor. High heels were originally designed for what purpose? Far from being the fashion statement, high heels have been traced to 10th century Persia, where men wore them for better stability while horseback riding. The heel would keep their foot in the stirrup while they rode and fought. Eventually, the style made its way to Europe, and over time, heels transformed into the more feminine look we associate with them today. The donkey symbol of the Democratic Party originated from an insult. In 1828, a random antagonist called Andrew Jackson a donkey. Rather than letting the insult get to him, Jackson decided to one-up the insult flinger and adopt the donkey as the symbol of the party. In 1776, the first submarine attack occurred. David Bushnell invented a submarine that was specifically designed to attach powder kegs to ships. Named the Turtle, Bushnell's submarine attached a keg to a British ship in the New York harbor. The Victorians pretended the dead were alive. Back in the Victorian era, not only was it extremely expensive to take a photo, but the exposure time also took forever. In fact, the first photograph was taken in 1826 and took 8 hours to expose. Due to these factors, most people only had one photo of themselves. Victorians used to wear dead body parts as jewelry. Grief is a complicated and difficult thing to handle. Often, we look for ways to hold on to our loved ones who have passed on, memorializing them with photographs and keepsakes. However, people took this grieving process to a whole new level during the Victorian era. Two famous presidents died on Independence Day. Both John Adams and Thomas Jefferson signed the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776. Little did they know the independence of the United States wasn't the only historical event that would occur on July 4th. Oddly enough, 50 years later, both Adams and Jefferson would die on July 4th, 1826. Could it be a coincidence, or was it fate? The sinking of the Titanic may have been predicted in a book. 14 years before the Titanic would sink, a man named Morgan Robertson wrote a novel about a British ship named Titan. Just like the Titanic, the Titan was called unsinkable, but proceeded to hit an iceberg and sunk. The book even included details about there not being enough lifeboats to hold the passengers on board the Titan. Perhaps Robertson was a clairvoyant, because 14 years after the book was published in 1898, the Titanic emerged and sank in a way that exactly mirrored the sinking of the Titan. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned some new and different things. See you the next time for more of Things They Usually Don't Teach You.